Well, it's been about 2 weeks since I've worked on this yard. Hurricane came through and we got, I don't know, 9, 10, 11 inches of rain. And then we were out of town for a week. But the grade job held up pretty good. I was pleased with it. Water ran off the way I wanted it to. And I didn't get washed out too bad. I've got a few ruts in different places. It's, 3 or 4 inches deep, which with that much water, I was surprised I didn't get washed out worse than what I did. But it's a little Humpty Dumpty, but that rain settled it down. So I'm going to take the tractor and yard box, run around here and drag it down, and I'll fill these little ruts in. And then I'm going to take a rock rake or rock box, whatever you call it, on the front of that skid steer. And this is what it looks like when it drags over it. It leaves it slick as a ribbon. So let's take the tractor, drag it down. We'll get it slicked up like this. We'll run that rock rake over it, pick the rocks up. We'll be ready to sow some grass. Now I've got my yard box set up to where I'm riding on the back cutting edge. It's just barely that front cutting edge just over the top of the ground. I don't really want to dig in. All I want to do is knock the high places down and fill my low ones. So I'm sort of scooting along the back and then knocking the humps off of the front. Leaves it in pretty good shape. When I spread my topsoil out, I run a little short back here on this back bank behind the house, which obviously if I was going to short it anywhere, I wanted to do it back here. But it's a little rough. It's, some sod in it, just old crusty stuff that, just not broke up. But when I'm fixing a yard, my go-to piece of equipment is a yard box or box blade, whatever you want to call it. Because you can just sort of fill the tractor in your seats, you can fill the high spots, the low spots, and you can carry that dirt around and make it pretty slick. But I'll tell you, the way I run it is in a circle. When I'm on a slope like this, you can tell where I've run it, it's a little up and down. But let's see if we can make this look any better. Well, all I need is 3 kids from inside the house to come out here and pick a few rocks up, and I can sow grass on that. But it does pretty good going in a circle. I don't know, across those humps and bumps. If I'd have tried to slick it up this way, I'd have left ridges and, valleys in it. But you pull across at a different angle, and I've always found that you can really slick it up pretty good. But I've got that rock rake on the skid steer. We'll drag over this, get these rocks out of here, and we'll be ready to roll. I've just got to go around the back side of the bank back up to the garage. We'll be ready to put the rock rake to it. always find it aggravating when you're doing any dirt work and you get up against the edges. If it lays there too, it'll crust over. It's hard to rake it out. So I went to Home Depot the other day and bought this little cultivator. Thought I'd try it to just see how it do. I just want to rough that surface up so I can get good, you know, seed to soil contact. This thing has worked really well. I've had a lot of edges all the way around the porch, but this is about the last of the Mohicans, but works pretty good. I'll come back and cut that off flush with the ground. That's just basically my cutoff up here at the top of the hill from a water line, but that goes to the house and over the garage, so I've got cutoffs in there. I'll cut that off flush with the ground, stick my lid back on it. We're in pretty good shape. Well, I've got it about as slick, I think, as I'm gonna get it. I don't think we'll have to worry about anybody turning an ankle over out here in the football game. And Brantley will have to thank me later because he's gonna have to ride over it on that lawnmower, but it ought to be a pretty smooth ride. But that rock rake does a really good job. It picks all that loose trash up and the bigger rocks. It leaves some little fine ones, but time it rains, it'll settle in, you'll never know they're there. Well, let's sow some grass seed on it. Now I've got a pretty scientific method for my spread rate on grass seed. Actually, I don't have one. I usually just figure if they call for 100 pounds, I put 150. I figure more's better than lesser, so who knows? I just put it on there. I want to be able to see it everywhere when I get done. Now I'm going to spread it with my mower, and then I've got a Femco Industry spreader. I don't know the model number on this, but it works really well. I've got my controls mounted on the roll bar, so I can control my speed, and then obviously on and off, and then you can control your gate here. But it works real well. I like it back here. That was a 50-pound bag of seed, so it barely fits in there, but like on fertilizer, I can put 100 pounds of it in there and it handles it very well. So let's throw it down, see what it does. Well, while I'm sowing the yard, this pond down here, which had some erosion, I put the erosion mat down on this, but it's still, you know, some of the topsoil's washed down the pond, so the grass around it's been pretty poor. It was worse over on that side, and so I went ahead and took a tiller and tilled it up. But I let the cattails get away from me this year, and so I've got 2 or 3 places down through there where they're at. So I'm taking the excavator and digging them out. You want to talk about a stinking mess? That's what I've got. Let's get them out around through here. That way, when I get that sowed and hopefully grass comes up, I won't have to get a machine back in on it, tear my grass up. If you've never had the pleasure of smelling good old pond muck, you're missing out. Well, I got everything sowed. I ended up running the Cola-Packer, run it over everything a couple times. I was pleased with the way it sort of pushed that seed down in contact with the soil. I usually straw a yard, right? And the last time I sowed grass, I put erosion mat down everywhere, but I decided to sow it, push it down the ground, and we'll see how it turns out. But I did go around my edges and put straw around the porch, and then around my edges around the driveways. I'm hoping I went back with a hand spreader and spread that to where I made sure I had good seed coverage, but hopefully I can get a good stand of grass around my edges. That way I'll have something to edge and, you know, make it look decent. But I did put some erosion mat in my natural drain there, and then one back off the end of the shed. But turned out pretty good. Seed's been laying here for about 5 days without any rain, so I'm glad to see this. I'd love to see just a nice gentle rainfall for a day or so, but knowing my luck, it'll come a gully washer and wash me out. But everything seems to be draining the way it's supposed to, and I'm glad to have it done. I'll show you one more thing before I go, but I added this stone around the edge of where the yard and the driveway meets, but that's sort of the look it's going to be. But I had 2 loads of rocks, so I went ahead and got them spread out and kind of slicked them up with a yard box on the tractor. He's supposed to bring me 4 or 5 more loads, and I'm going to do the same over there at that building, then go down the driveway. But I'd gotten a bid for $135,000 for the driveway to concrete it, and that was only out at the other end of that shed, so it doesn't include any of this and underneath my shed. So I'd end up having $160,000 in concrete probably if I'd have poured all this. And hey, for that kind of money, I like gravel more than I did. So I'm putting it pretty thick. I've got about a 4-inch average of stone all the way around, but it cleans it up, gives you a good edge, and hey, it'll be plenty fine to drive on. But I've got one more bit of concrete to pour here. I don't know why I didn't pour this to begin with, but anyway, I am going to pour this slab and square that up, and that's the reason I've got everything laid out here to where I can just bump right against it. But this one has been a long time in the making to get from when I started to where we are now, but I'm glad to get this behind me. Still got a few more projects to go, but if you watch this one, I appreciate it, and we'll catch you later.